All right, so we're gonna begin. I'm taking my large flat brush, I'm dipping it into water. When I'm dipping it into water, I am taking the brush, can you see? And I'm pressing it up against the side because I don't want it to be overly saturated. Just enough water on my brush. And I am just going to pull across. So I have this, not a lot of water, just a nice little pulling of water. And then I can dip into a color, and these colors should be ready to go for you guys from my previous class. But I am switching brushes, and I am going to a smaller flat brush now. And I'm just gonna pull water or the color across. Look at how that bleeds. Oh, it's like beautiful how it just filters through the water and bleeds down. Kind of fun. Yep, so you do have to use quite a bit of water. And I probably oversaturated mine, but that's just something to kind of play around with. All right, give you a moment to do that. I'm passing out a straw to all of you. This straw is for you to use this time, and if you like this technique that I'm about to show you, then you should hang on to this straw. Otherwise, if you don't like it, throw it out, but you only get one straw. And the Art Aid just cut them in half of them with seal. Sorry, friend. Yep.
So why don't I pooling from put it in the straw.
So this is going to be fun. We're going to drop some color down, and then we are going to push through with our straw. So what's really fun about this, it's a great way for doing trees, branches, making things look very organic. So I'm just going to take some green paint, and I'm using my baby round, and I'm just going to drop a chunk of color right in the middle. It's just a little bit. And then I'm going to take my straw and blow on it. And you can kind of start to direct the paint a little bit depending on which angle you go, you know, with blowing on it. And then sometimes I like to take a darker color over the top, and I just kind of drop it. Just add a little other element. All right. All right. Now we're going to our medium flat brush. Or should I wait a moment? I'll wait a moment. So excited. And I am going to take my flat brush. And yesterday, did we talk about the difference between opaque and translucent? Yes. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my flat brush. I'm dipping into my yellow again. And I'm just getting it so it's somewhat pasty. Working it over, so I have a lot of paint there to deal with. Perfect. My hairs are falling out of my brush. I hate that when that happens. So I'm just going to pull a straight hard edge right there. And then So that's our hard edge, right? But we're gonna make a gradation of value happen with some soft edges. So I'm taking my round brush and I'm gonna draw into this. And as I'm kind of painting or drawing into this, I'm adding water. And I'm getting it just to loop around, and I'm adding more water. Just kind of this full circle of pushing color around with water, right? So we're getting this nice soft edges. Now I'm gonna slowly pull up the color with my paper towel. And the idea here is we see our soft and hard edges, right? But we also start to see a gradation of value, and we want it controlled. We don't want it to be boom, hard defined edges. We want it to be a nice smooth transition from dark to light. And as you're doing that, I'm gonna just do another little fun thing on the side here. I have a dot of color, right? And all these edges are soft and round. I can take a flat brush and I can pull out a hard edge too. So again, I could actually do that same idea and soften it up. Try to get that gradation. And I didn't have very far to go on that, so. Easy? Super. Okay, we're moving on. We have our sponge. We're gonna take our sponge, we're gonna dip it into water, and your sponges might already be pretty wet from the previous class, but you're gonna scrunch it up to the nice and tight, and you are gonna dip it into your paints. One yellow. See, over here I'm gonna do a little orange. And then, ooh, I'm losing control. And then another little section red. So try not to double dip into the same areas. Try to make them 3 defined separate areas. And I'm going to just start to pat down with the yellow, getting the yellow texture down. And then I'm going to switch over to the orange. And then I can switch over to my red, which is going to be the most powerful one because I have the most on there. And you could use that texture for a lot of different opportunities in your landscape paintings. It could be for your sandy beach. It could be for a patch of flowers. It could even be for leaves. So I'm going to wring out my sponge so I don't ruin anybody's painting. All right. So this is going to be tricky. The next one that you're going to be doing is you're going to find your driest brush in the bunch and try to find a flat, dry brush in your bin. And if you can't find a dry one, try to get it dry as possible with the paper towel. All right, so I'm gonna take my brush. Do I need a pause? Yeah. Okay, you gotta say, Miss Hawker, pause. So you can see I'm kind of trying to get the moisture out, just pushing it on my hand, just kind of trying to get any moisture that's left in my brush just pushed out. It's a good way, just kind of make sure it's also clean. All right, my brush is pretty dry, and I'm gonna dip into my green, and I'm just going to dip the tips of my brush. So I just have the tips of my brush green. And I want to see how loosey-goosey and kind of feathery light, see, my brush probably needs to be drier as well. Let's see, we'll try for this one. Because usually it gets to, there it is, more crispy lines. See those crispy lines? Now, when you're painting a person, this is a nice little technique to work on hair and wispy hairs, but it also can be for grassy fields. It could even be for an animal, but you can really see how you can work that color. And it's not bleeding like we would on the wet on wet. Give you a moment. Okay, so the next one I want to show you is you're going to grab your watercolor pencil in your bin. You want to grab your sandpaper if you have it. So I want to make sure everybody has sandpaper and those pencils. Okay. You guys have these pencils? Okay, one.
Should we have some pencils?
They are not sharpened, but you can sharpen them after I'm demo. There's one. Okay. Oh, you have enough? Yes, I do. Who else needs one? All right. All right. So we're going to use these colored pencils for a couple different fun techniques. So at times we struggle with getting detail right, and using the colored pencils is a really nice technique. And we're not going to do this scrumbling method because I want this square to do colored pencils. And scrumbling is just kind of working opaque and translucent next to each other, and we're not going to worry about it. This is more important. So let's say I'm drawing a rock just for fun. There's my rock. It's kind of a funny looking rock at the moment. And I'm shading it a little bit, but this doesn't look like a watercolor yet, right? So I'm gonna take my small round brush and I am going to fill the inside part with water, and I'm gonna just go right up to the edges, and the color should start to bleed in. And I want to leave the middle part pretty liquidy for the moment, full of water. I'm pushing the pigment around there. All right, that looks good. Then what I can do is I can take my sandpaper. I'm going to take my sandpaper and I am going to scrape a little bit of color from the colored pencil into this rock shape, and you can see what's happening. I'm getting a nice little texture on the rock, and I did the two different colors so you can see the red and the black. Does that make sense? Do you need some help? Okay. Yeah, you guys might need to sharpen yours. Sorry about that. No, that's good. So let's grab a paintbrush. Let's grab this one. Isn't that cool? fun little technique. So, but wait, I feel like a salesman on television. There's more. There's more that we can do with this exciting pencil. Look out. Oh, I'm gonna dip it in water just for a second. And now, look at how that color just kind of spreads out nice and evenly. And I have a nice sense of control there. And we do have one set of watercolor pencils. I dip the pencil into the water. Isn't that cool? It's kind of fun. So I can go in. And I'm still drawing with it, so sometimes we kind of struggle with a little brush control, and these watercolor pencils are kind of magical. And it's a nice way to bridge the two worlds of drawing and painting together. Give everybody a moment to catch up. My funny little rock. All right. Oh, yeah, we forgot to do that yesterday. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, we're gonna move on. It says straw here, but we already did that. And you guys have scratching left, right? Is that the last one that you have? All right, so for scratching, we're gonna take our flat brush and we are just going to put a chunk of color in. So we're gonna take this, I'm gonna just use green. I love green. It's not easy being green. All right. So I'm going to take my paintbrush with the beveled edge. See that? And I am just going to start shooting lines across. And you see what's happening here as I'm shooting the lines across? Can you see what's happening? The lines become, yep, because the pigment fills in those cracks. All right, there's one more little thing I want to show you, and then we'll move on to painting leaves. Is that I'm going to take a flat brush right now, and I'm going to take my green paint. And this one's a little tricky. It's called Pushing Out Pigment, and I don't think you have it on there, but I just want to show it to you. And I hold the brush at a weird angle, kind of upside down, and I flick it. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to, I can make it a little bit more liquidy than it is. I'm adding kind of an area of the lines start to push out on it. So you can do this for fields, or for if you're doing texture on a building, you can do that. Just, it's a little bit of brush control. Kind of fun. Kind of fun.